One of the surprising things about my time as a YouTube movie critic is that it's taken me this long to review a movie by the legendary Orson Welles. To paraphrase Roger Ebert, just because I can't word it better than he did, Orson Welles was a boy genius in his mid-20s who was given free rein to make whatever movie he wanted, and he made the greatest movie of all time, only to see both the movie and his career chewed up and spat out by small-minded Hollywood executives. It's tempting to say that Welles is a prime example of a hugely missed opportunity, considering how he had to struggle just to make a fraction of the movies he dreamed of making. But the movies that he did end up making have remained highly praised among movie buffs to this day. Of all his movies, though, the only one that was a true box office success when it was released was a tense thriller called The Stranger. The Stranger follows that age-old story of a man trying to run away from his past. In this case, we get Charles Rankin, played by Welles himself. Rankin is guilty of crimes that are only hinted at for most of the movie, but they're significant enough to draw the attention of a man named Mr. Wilson. Wilson is played by renowned actor Edward G. Robinson, and he finds Rankin in a small Connecticut town, about to be married to the local judge's daughter, who's played by Loretta Young. The movie's plot is a kaleidoscope of deception, manipulation, and surprises. The movie follows the psychological progressions of both Rankin and his bride as Rankin's past life begins to creep into the foreground. Mr. Wilson picks up the trail after a dinner scene which is by itself reason enough to watch the movie. The constant figure of the pipe-smoking detective reminds Rankin that his past is closing in on him, and time is running out. In the meantime, he struggles to repair the big clock tower, belying an obsession that could reveal himself for who he really is. While Welles wasn't particularly fond of this movie, so I'm told, and while it's certainly not the best movie he ever made, it definitely contains the kind of qualities that he's become famous for. The shadowy style of the cinematography, the haunting dialogue, and the dark subject matter help make this movie a fascinating watch. Obviously, Welles' performance is hypnotizing, but credit should also go to Edward G. Robinson for his performance as Mr. Wilson. However, the most interesting performance would definitely have to be Loretta Young as Mary, the young woman who goes through a very slow but torturous awakening to the situation that she's in. While there is a certain oddity in how two characters speak to each other in the movie, and while the last line in the movie seems incredibly abrupt, The Stranger holds up as classic Orson Welles film. What's more, it was the only financial triumph in Welles' filmography, which tragically contained several unfinished projects due to lack of finances. It's often been debated what Welles' film career would have been like had he continually been given the same kind of freedom that he had with Citizen Kane, but as The Stranger shows, Welles was a truly gifted man who was very able at working with what he was given. On a side note, The Stranger is actually in public domain right now, because the producers failed to renew the copyright back in the 70s. So that makes this movie one of the rare movies that you can just watch online and not have to feel any guilt over. So that's definitely something to put your conscience to rest.